it's Miss Lowry. Today we're going to be doing an activity called Angles for a Solution. So get out your CAS calculators and the handout we passed out in class and follow along. We're going to start by reviewing some of the things we already know about angle measures. So flip all the way to problem 7 on our calculator page here. We're going to do a quick little review. So when we're thinking about supplementary angles, we're going to always think about starting with a straight line. We know that the measure of a straight line is going to be 180 degrees. So from here to here, 180 if we were to do an angle. And if we were to cut that with a transversal, then we know we still have a full measure of 180 degrees. It's just now split up into two parts. So this little piece here plus this angle here is going to add up to 180. And it's important to also note that if we were to flip the orientation of this line, it's still going to be a straight line. If we just tilt it this way, the angle measure is still 180. And if we cut that again, it is still going to be two parts that are making up 180 degrees. And when we think about complementary angles, we're going to think about a 90-degree angle. Because two complementary angles, if I were to draw a line through the middle of it here, those two pieces are going to add up to make this full 90-degree angle. And for vertical angles, we want to picture an X on our papers or on our calculator screen. So anytime we have an X, we know that this angle plus its opposite angle here are going to have the same exact measure. Just the same as this top one is going to have the same measure as the bottom one right here. And then for adjacent angles, we can still use our X example here because we're going to, instead of look at opposite angles, we're going to look at this angle plus the one that's right next to it. So adjacent angles will share this vertice in the middle here, and they'll also share a line. So one of these green or yellow sides. And while you're going through these problems, if ever you forget a definition, just go through problem number 7 and it gives you a quick review of each of these concepts. So to begin, we're going to start all the way back at the beginning to problem number 2 here. You can slide the screen down a little bit to make it more visible. So it says, given the measure of the angle DEC is 56, and DEB, this whole angle right here, is going to be 124 degrees. It wants us to find these two measures, AEB and AEC. So, since while we're looking at our screen, we don't see any X's, we don't really see any 90-degree angles either. So I think what we're going to end up using is a supplementary theorem. So what we can do while we're solving this is go into our calculator and see our straight line here. And we know that this whole angle measure right here is going to be 124. So I know that 124 plus this piece over on this side is going to equal 180. And as you guys are working through these problems, feel free to insert a page, control page. It can be a calculator or a notes page, whatever you feel is best. So with some quick algebra manipulation, I'm going to say that 180 minus 124 equals 56. So AEB is going to equal 56 as well. And be sure to note either on your calculator page or on the handout that you guys have, be sure to note these angle measures and to say what theorem you're using to come up with them. So in problem number 2.1, you're still going to have to find AEC as well, and you can still use supplementary. So really quickly, I'm going to just go through the rest of these and try to give you guys a few hints. So if you look at problem 3.1, notice it wants us to find these 4 angle measures given that EAF is going to be 90 degrees and HAT is going to be 50 degrees. So if you notice here, our red transversal line going through the origin is going to kind of create an X with this straight line here. We can kind of think of it as the y-axis and this line here. So HAB seems to be a vertical angle with DAC. That's just a little hint for that problem. And if we move on to problem 4.1, now it wants us to find 6 different angle measures given 2. And for this one, some hints I have for you guys are that the very first 2 problems, or the first 2 angles it asks you to find, are actually given. So if we go back to our original, EGF here we see is 90 degrees, and GGC is going to be 42. So those are really easy to fill in. So we can say 90, and we can say 42. And for the rest of them, try to follow the prompts that it gives to help you to see which angle needs to be solved in which order. So after you finish those, we're going to come to problem 5. And this one doesn't specify how many angles it wants you to solve for. I'm going to say at least 4 angles I want you to find. You can use any methods, just make sure that you're writing down how you know the measure of each angle. For example, if we see here we have this blue line. And remember when we talked about supplementary angles, how they don't always have to be a straight orientation? So think of that blue line as this green one here. It's going to be kind of at an angle, but it still is going to have a transversal cutting through it, and we know that means supplementary. So let's go back and take a peek at it. So this blue line is being cut by this red line. So if this blue line has a measure of 180 degrees, and then we have a piece right here that is 71 degrees, we know that whatever this piece here, angle AEK, that is going to add up with 71 to make 180. So if I do the control add page, I can do some quick algebra manipulation again and see that that angle measure should be 109 degrees. And as you guys are working through this, if you ever want to check to see if you're right, you can use the measurement tool. But be sure to still write down the way you're finding these. So I'm going to measure an angle. I'm going to do AEK to check to make sure that's 109, or AEG here is really what I'm looking for. And it is 109, so we are correct. I'm going to put that up there. And if you notice, we also seem to have an X right here. So I think we're going to use vertical angles as well, which means that angle EED is also going to equal 109. All right, and number 6, as stated in your handout, is going to be a challenge activity. It's optional, so if you feel that you are really mastering the concepts and want more work, then you can go ahead and work on problem 6. If you're feeling unsure about it, it's still something to do for extra practice once you complete the rest of the assignment, but it's not for a grade. And as I said, as you guys are continuing to move through the problems, feel free to check in on problem number 7, just for a quick review. And if you get stuck, of course, I'm always here as a resource, and you can ask your peers as well. Thank you for watching, and good luck.